honest moment here. I never wanted to work for Google. I used to be super anti-corporation. Like,
tell us where it all began. What sparked your interest in engineering, and how did that lead you to Google?
Well, it all began, I guess, when I was younger. My dad works in tech, so I guess he was a big inspiration of mine. But I didn't really learn to code until university, and getting into computer science was more of a random decision. Like in high school, I was always really good at math and business, so I found like this double degree where you can do math and business. But I heard you need to eat, breathe, sleep math, and I was like, maybe that's too much. And I found a computer science and business double degree, and I had never even considered computer science. It was just very random, and I was like, yep, that sounds like a good idea. And during my degree, I fell in love with the computer science part of it. I really didn't like the business side of it that much.
Wow, so interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I fell into it. Like after my first co-op, that's what we call it in Canada. I guess you guys call it internships. So after my first co-op in business, I was like, nope, let's do software engineering co-ops from now on. And all of them were great. I loved it. So that's how I decided I wanted to be a software engineer.
That's awesome. I mean, it's super important to have role models, and you having your dad kind of with you with like, how did that shape the way you like looked at the field and like how you were able to advance through it so fast?
I don't know. I guess it's the catalyst for my entire passion in tech. Like, I don't think I would be as interested in it if I didn't have him always like explaining how things worked and showing me this and that and all his little gadgets and electronics. So I'm not really sure, in what path I would have taken without him there. That's why I think it is super important to, have people on social media, have role models like in general on the internet showing people what they can do. So yeah, I think back then we didn't have as many people online to look up to. So if you didn't have someone in your immediate family or your immediate friend group, you would never know about the types of jobs you can get. So
yeah, I mean, that's totally real. When I was growing up, I had like no default like person to look up to who was an engineer that I was like, oh, that looks so fun and exciting, or I could potentially visualize myself in that field. And now you can like scroll on TikTok or scroll on Instagram, and you can actually see like people who you can deeply resonate with, other women specifically, like even just a few years older than you, actually potentially even like older sibling or older sister type role models, right? And be able to scale that across not just your immediate family members, right, to literally an infinite amount of people, which is so very cool. So first of all, we appreciate counts like yours so much. It is truly like so inspiring for young women when they're thinking about breaking into tech. But then more importantly, you're like educating, right? And a lot of us don't have...
I try. It's mostly memes, but...
No, like, I mean, so much of your content, and I've obviously deep dove in all of it, is really helping people find really great tools to use so they can supercharge their education and like learning about like how they can get more efficient at learning things. So all of that is so like helpful, and naturally, like, you don't just get 160,000 followers casually. You get that many followers because you're genuinely someone who can bring that impact on a day-to-day basis for your followers. So like,
I love that you think that, because my strategy was I'm gonna shit post and see what happens. But I love that you think that. That's so sweet. Thank you.
Me and everyone else thinks that, but that's funny that the first thing you thought you were doing was shit posting, when I totally think your account is something totally different. But tell me more about like how you got started in creating. Like, what was the first moment where like, I'm gonna like actually start posting about this more?
Oh, that was because I was doing the 100 Days of Code challenge. So that started on Twitter. I was never on Twitter, but it moved on to Instagram. So I just like found it one day. I don't remember how exactly, but I was like, oh, that sounds like a cool challenge. You have to code every day for 100 days and post, like at the end of the day, you post what you worked on and your progress and share it with others.
What was this? Who started this 100-day coding challenge?
I have no clue.
Oh,
it just became a phenomenon. I have no idea, but good for them, whoever started it.
Whoever started that.
It got quite popular. So I
guess 160,000 of your followers need to thank you for whoever started this 100 Days of Coding challenge.
I don't know. But at the time, I was freelancing. Like after my first job, which was for a small consulting company, I realized, wait, I can do this myself and like keep more of the money. So I got a bunch of contracts, and that's what I was doing at the time. And so I was actually working less hours and making more than at my first job. And so I had all this free time, and I was like, oh, I should do this 100 days of code challenge. Why not?
Yeah.
And that's how I started posting on Instagram, like consistently for 100 days. And I think at the end of the 100 days, I had like 5,000 followers. And at the time I was like, whoa, that's like 5,000 people. I can like influence people, and that's the coolest part of being a developer, is that like you can create software that reaches millions of people. And that is cool, but it's even cooler to like know who those people are and interact with them. So even with my 5,000 followers, I was like, oh, this is so cool. I'm like reaching 5,000 interesting people that like the same things as me. And then from there I was like, oh, well, I guess if these people are interested, I should keep going. And I just kept going, and that's it.
Wow. No, that's amazing. And I think like there has been this rise of influencers, obviously, in the past decade, but most of them are very much geared towards like fashion and lifestyle. And I generally feel like there's very few influencers out there that are like working to actually showcase like what it's like to be an engineer and actually document in detail like what that process is like a very different process than someone filming their day in the life of like what coffee they drank and like what outfit they wore, right? So can you share a little bit more about like what a day in your life looks like between working and running around filming and posting and all the things you probably do more than that I don't even know?
Well, it depends. It depends on the day. Like, for example, if you caught me a year ago, I would have had a totally different day than now. And actually now I just finished well, we didn't launch yet, but I finished the product that I'm working on at our startup. So my days are super chill. Like I'm not doing a whole lot. Yeah. So I have a lot of time like I did before. So now I'm actually trying to work on creating content more. So it depends which part of my day you're interested in.
Well, now I want to know both. I want to know last year you and this year you, and how has that changed?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, last year me was still working at Google as a software engineer.
Okay.
So last year me was like struggling really hard to balance everything because, 9-to-5 life is hard to balance with a side hustle that also takes up
basically 9 to 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because I was really passionate about it. So I did spend probably like 20 hours a week on it, at least a part-time job, probably more. Like on the content side of
content
things.
creation is not a casual thing you do for 30 minutes at the end of your day. It takes a lot of time.
It can be, actually. It depends. So now I have a process. Okay, to answer the content part of your question, I do everything in bulk. So I'll have on my weekend, what I used to do back in the 9-to-5 days. Sorry, to clarify, I still work full time, but it's not 9-to-5 anymore. I have flexibility, so I can work whichever hours I want. That's why I can work from anywhere also, because time zones don't matter.
And that's simply because you moved from Google to working at a startup where they're more flexible.
Super flexible.
Okay, so
the
cool.
Most flexible. And anyway, in the 9-to-5 days, I would have maybe a chunk of an hour a day where I would post and interact and maybe create stuff, but mostly not. Mostly on the weekends, I would just have a 4-hour block where I would sit and go through my ideas that I randomly jotted down, film all of them, and then on the next day, the Sunday, I would edit them for a good 2 hours or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, I don't know, a few hours every weekend. You would do it all in bulk, and then you would have stuff to post for 3 weeks at a time. You just make 21 videos in a few hours on the weekend.
Because actually I have tried that and I've realized that I get very tired really fast. So after 2 or 3 videos, I'm well, now you can see how tired I am in the video. And now the video is bad. So then I can stop.
That's true. Oh, okay. That's a very good point. I also realized that about myself. So I'll do the more intense, time-consuming / tiring videos at first. And then at the end, I'll make the the funny ones. Easy. Yeah, low effort
that's good
ones.
advice. No, that is good advice, because I was just like, I guess I gotta film every 2 days, and that can be very
that's way more tiring. Yeah. That is way more tiring.
I know, I guess you're right.
Getting all out in like a weekend once or twice a month.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna let you know how that goes.
100%.
Yeah,
do it.
That seems really smart. Okay, cool. So you film for like a few hours on a weekend, and then you kind of just for the next 3 weeks work on just posting and getting them out there.
Yes, for general stuff. But obviously you have to be really time sensitive to trends and things like that. So obviously when I see a trend, I'm like, okay, I'm going to have another film day at the end of the week and do more stuff or things like that. But generally, I don't create content every 2 days. That would be a lot. I'm too lazy for that.
Okay,
I'm like the most lazy. I'm like the most lazy content creator, I think.
Wow. No, that's interesting. I actually have heard a few other people who do like that, and they're also very successful. So I think this is a good strategy.
Yeah.
Can you share more about the startup you're working at? Is it stealth? Or you can share more about how you found it?
I can share how I found it.
Yeah.
But I'm not supposed to talk about anything before it launches.
Okay.
I was specifically told not to.
Okay.
Which is why on my LinkedIn it's stealth. I didn't even know that was a thing people do. That's what they told me to do. Because I was like, hey guys, like we were supposed to launch 4 months after I joined them, which was back like last year, July. We were supposed to launch in like September or October.
Right. And you're like, oh, this stealth thing will go away soon.
No, because there was no stealth thing. I was just like, actually, I think I didn't even take it. I didn't even change my LinkedIn that whole time. I was really into working there. I was hardcore. Anyway, after the first 4 months, I was like, hey guys, like I should probably update my LinkedIn. And that's when I found out that stealth mode is the thing people do. But now I've been in stealth mode for way too long. And it's not even that stealthy. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I found my job through YouTube.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Super random. The days of social media are, what a time to be alive.
So you found the job posting to apply, or someone reached out to you because you were creating on YouTube?
No, so without giving too much information, I follow a YouTuber who is ex-Google.
Okay.
And that's where he announced that, our startup is hiring, blah, blah, blah. And if you want to apply, like, we're specifically looking for Google software engineers or SREs or da-da-da-da. I was like, oh, that sounds like me.
You're like, that's me.
Yeah, and flexible hours and work from anywhere. And I was like, oh, that's me. Like, I want that. And yeah, that's kind of what happened. Found it on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, so many people prefer the remote flexible hours. But
100%.
It's actually harder than we think to find jobs like that, especially because since the pandemic has been over, a lot of the companies are mandating like coming back to work and coming back more often.
Google is checking badges now, like how often you badge in per week, and you have to badge in 3 times a week.
Wow.
Yeah,
and
they just started 2 weeks ago. I just found out.
No, I think that for me that's frustrating, because I genuinely feel like when you're in a company that big, it's almost distracting to come to work. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like their workers could be like more efficient and focused at home.
I am 100% more efficient at home. Like, no,
me too.
No doubt about it.
And I understand why some startups like want you to come in person and on-site, because like there is that critical culture that needs to be built in the beginning. For like my company, we're remote first and we're flexible, and we'll do like on-site days, because I believe in the importance of like actually getting work done alone is actually better. But I can understand for other startups that are early stages, like why, but I don't get why all these big companies. It depends
on your role too. Like, it's so important, right?
Super
if you're in sales or I don't know, HR or something where you need to be with people, it's totally different than when you're a software engineer and just like writing your own code. And like maybe once a week it's okay. You need to have meetings and talk about your design docs in person and strategies and whatever. But in general, way more productive at home.
So it's epic that you found that and the flexible hours.
Yeah, honestly, I'm kind of, I feel very blessed that I found that.
And it's a full-time role. It's not like a part-time role. It's just flexible but full-time.
Yes. Well, okay, I'm a contractor. I'm not a full-time employee.
Okay.
I'm a contractor.
Okay.
But yes.
again, clearly comes with flexibilities, so it's so worth it. And then would you continue working there after? Are you?
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do after my product launches. I'm probably going to have some maintenance work to do and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But my contract is supposed to end, and I don't know what I want to do next.
Oh, it's so exciting. You can do anything.
Yeah, I can do anything, and the possibilities are so many that it's a little bit scary.
So what's on your mind? What are the options?
Well, I'm actually also working on my own startup.
Oh.
That was part of the reason why I wanted something so flexible, because I always knew that I wanted to pursue entrepreneurship, but it's really scary when, you know, you have no money, like no income guaranteed to be there, right? So this was the perfect option because, you know, I have a very stable income while also having the flexibility to work on whatever I want. And that was the goal. So I think I want to pursue my startup full time while also doing some content and then seeing how that goes. Otherwise, I was also considering, I love San Francisco. I was considering applying to some jobs and moving out here.
Do it.
Yeah.
Come hang with us here.
Yeah, it's a good space. I do think
if you are trying to actually build your own thing, the founder community in SF is truly phenomenal, and there are some very legit founders you can learn from here. I found that when I left New York and came to SF, there was a vast difference in the day-to-day of the people that I was interacting with, and now I get to work at this epic founders co-working space. So like every day I get to interact with other founders, learn from them in real time, how they're dealing with the problems that I'm dealing with, and actually get actionable feedback. And it's much more useful to get feedback from people who are like in real time living the same like lifestyle and like having the same day-to-day problems versus like watching a YouTube video of a founder who did it, who's like looking back at like their past 10-year journey and saying, in retrospect, this is what we did in an era where the world looked very different. Mm-hmm. And they're also just recounting on what they think happened. It's like easy to be like, in retrospect, it wasn't that bad. But like when you're in the moment and you're like struggling through all these things. Right?
Oh, 100%. That's so funny. That's exactly how I feel about my computer science degree. In retrospect, like when people ask me, I'm like, it wasn't that bad. But my mom is like, oh, you don't remember crying every night and wanting to drop out? I'm like, no, I must have some really good trauma response.
You blacked it out.
Yeah, I have some trauma response where I like blacked it all out. That must be what happened. So it's probably the same for all the founders. It's like,
for sure, it's so
easy.
I mean, I don't know yet. I'm not successful yet. Hopefully, when I get there, I could say that, oh yeah, it was actually pretty easy in retrospect. Right. But you know, get a job out of your SF and then get hyper exposed to that community. And then,
how did you come here, or like, how did you get to where you are now?
I like grew up in the Bay and was so surrounded by like tech and startups. It was kind of like very obvious for me that I wanted to build my own thing. But I also deeply understood the importance of like getting industry experience to expose me to different fields and stuff. So I've also had was an engineer, then I was a product manager, building my thing on the side, which is why I think it's really awesome that you're already thinking about what you're building, even if you're not ready to like jump ship tomorrow. I built kind of stealthily and in the side for like a few years before I actually quit my job to build this thing. And I can tell you that it didn't help as much as I thought it would help. I think what it did give me was like confidence and conviction. Like, I have to do this no matter what. Like, I have sat on this for so long and I'm still thinking about it. And I still feel very unfulfilled by the fact that I haven't done it yet. And that conviction to go and do it was the reason why I'm like here right now, quit and like building. But I think what it didn't do, which I thought it would do, was help me get closer to help me actually make progress. It's very difficult to actually make progress on building your own company on the side as a side hustle after your 9 to 5. As I was also in big tech too. So 9 to 5 in a big tech is a very draining thing. It's like almost impossible to like also build a company on the side. Yeah.
It's like what you said about the videos. Like you film 3 videos and then you're so tired you can't do more. Like the 9 to 5 is the 3 videos that tire you out, and then like that's it. There's no more side hustle going on.
Yeah. And you know what? The reality is like, yes, there's no money in building. And most like big companies that actually become successful, it takes like a decade to get there. So you have to kind of be like very willing to be in the rut of it with not that much money for a while. And if you can somehow like or it seems like you have built this like very efficient system for yourself for creating content and getting stuff out there without it consuming your life. Use that as your steady income stream, and also use that audience and distribution that you have to put whatever you are trying to build out into the world and like get that in people's hands, right? That's like your superpower. That's
exactly the plan. Yeah.
That is literally, that should be every founder's plan.
No, because not every founder wants to create content, right? The founders want to create the product. So that's not necessarily the best way to do it. Like you can pay influencers and content creators to get that advertising.
That is true, right? But and I get the argument for like maybe like specifically B2B companies, it's probably not necessary that they have to be creators.
Definitely not.
But specifically for B2C companies, I feel like it's unsustainable to continue to pay influencers and creators to get your product out there than rather than do it yourself. And it's actually less about the money. It's more about the fact that when people are listening to your story and then at the end of your story, you're connecting your product to your story and it's coming from you. It's so much more of an emotional response rather than like a transactional sales you're doing, where it ends up being like so much more impactful that almost money can't buy. So I do believe the next era of B2C startups like have to start from media and start from like the founder actually 100%. Creating content themselves.
Yeah, the creator economy is going to be definitely bigger than any of the old economies, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that there's going to be a huge wave in that. But at the same time, I don't think it's necessary. But it's a huge advantage. That's for sure.
Huge advantage. You're right. Honestly, nothing is necessary. Like every founder story is honestly the exception to the rule anyway.
That's true.
Yeah. But I think also with like all of the AI no code tools that are coming out there, it actually makes it easier than ever to build things. But guess what is still really hard to do? It's still really hard to capture people's attention and build a big audience. So that still remains like one of the hardest things to do when building a company. So you have that superpower, and you just have to go build this company now. I'm very excited for you.
Well, I'm I already have an MVP of one piece that I want to build. So it's good. It's almost there.
Yeah, no, you're so close. I'm so excited. All you have to do now is launch it and tell the world.
Exactly.
Skyrocketing.
Yeah, and that will happen soon too. So I'm really excited about that.
What I have a question for you. What do you think when people say, "Oh, like AI is gonna like take all these engineers' jobs"?
It depends in what context they say it. Like if they say eventually or like in the next 3 years. Like obviously it's not going to happen tomorrow. I think it's ridiculous that people think that all software engineers are going to be replaced by like 2027 or whatever people say. People say it's going to happen really fast. I think that's very unrealistic. Like people who say that haven't worked in big tech where like
that's so true.
2% of your time is spent coding and like the 98% is like in meetings with people, like understanding requirements, understanding the giant piles of documentation and like the way things work and connect. And I think AI won't be able to do all of that for a very long time. Like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, no. I mean, I was just going to say like it maybe like the more with all the documentation has actually AI can like power through that pretty fast and like versus a human could potentially. But I wonder what is actually the blocker is the fact that someone at the company has to actually integrate and automate everything with AI. And that I feel like is going to take like decades for these big tech companies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even the understanding the documentation part is very like, you know, all the AI models right now are just predictive. Like they just basically predict what the next word is going to be. They don't actually understand the documentation.
That's
and
true.
I think it's really important to actually understand like what the system is doing, how the infrastructure works, how everything connects together for the vast majority of the problems that are left.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So when do you think the jobs are going to be gone? And what do you think the world's going to look like then? Or maybe they'll never be gone. Maybe they'll be adapted. What do you think?
Okay. Well, I have a very controversial opinion on all of this. So I don't know if I want to like, but I do think that eventually AI could automate all jobs.
Yeah.
Like all of them.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to have like as a society, as humanity, we're going to have to find fulfillment in things that aren't our jobs. Like, I think it's kind of messed up how when you talk to someone, the first thing you ask is, oh, what do you do? Like, it's always about jobs. It's like, even when you introduce me, like, I'm an ex-Google software engineer.
Right,
or
right.
ex-Google,
it's like the one thing, the first thing I found on your profile.
I know. Well, I do that because you need to build trust with people, and that's like part of the reason why I wanted to work at Google anyway, because most of the time when people look at me, they think I'm an idiot. And I can now be like, okay, I have this one thing that
Google has verified me.
Yeah, exactly. I have the blue check mark
of working in big tech. Real, and it sucks. And honestly, as a woman specifically,
exactly,
you need that almost like to get people to listen to you, specifically in tech, where it's obviously very male dominated. Like, I feel like a biggest reason why I was in big tech and why I wanted those name brands was because I almost felt insecure that if I didn't get it, like in the future, if I wanted to do things, like people wouldn't take me seriously.
Exactly.
So I was like, well, I don't actually want to go and find out. Let me just go get this on the resume. And then worst case, they still don't take me seriously, but at least I tried my best to over optimize for that possibility.
That's good. I believe in over optimization as well. So that's a really good strategy. Yeah. And honestly, that was my strategy as well. Yeah. Like, why not?
But I mean, that is real. Like, when I talk about stuff about how to get a job or like my perception on the industry, like, I make TikToks, and like, I really actually feel like the reason why they listen to me is because I once worked in big tech, and I wonder if even if I had the same knowledge, like, what if I did all the work to get the job and then I didn't take the job? Like, let's say I imagine I did that. I would still have the same advice of like how I got it and stuff, and obviously getting the job is an accomplishment, but I don't think anyone would think, yeah, and that sucks.
That's actually part of the reason why so honest moment here, I never wanted to work for Google. I used to be super anti-corporation. Like, I can't swear on here, sorry. I'm gonna try to have a filter here.
Okay.
But yeah, I used to be very like, I don't like the government. I don't like big corporations. I don't like any of that, anti-everything over here. Anti-capitalist.
Okay, yes.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't like socialism and all that stuff either. But I just never had any desire to work in a big corporation. That did not look fun to me. But I got recruited by Google because of my double degrees. I think they were specifically looking, for context, I started as a TSE, technical solutions engineer. And it's kind of like you need some kind of business skills because it's very customer facing, and the technical skills because you're working with like GCP's, Google Cloud's developers. So it's customer facing and you need the technical skills. And so they reached out to a lot of like double degree students in Waterloo where I was. And I went through the interview process mainly because I was like, this is good practice for the jobs I actually want. And I never thought I would get it. And then I did. And I mean, my parents were like proud of me for the first time, and they were so excited about it. And I was like, I guess I should take it now. And I took it because you get the name brand, you get the experience, and you get that like blue check mark of, oh, you actually know what you're doing, and people are going to listen to you. And that is 100% like even for people that don't want to work in big tech, I think even if you just sacrifice a year of your life and do it, like it is life changing because you get all of those three things, which I think are so important for your career. Yeah. So yeah, I'm so happy that I went through with it because 100% to answer your question, like nobody would really listen to you if you got all the way to getting the job but never took the job.
Yeah, it just doesn't count then. You can't say.
Yeah, and not only that, but it is a totally different experience. Like I learned so much in 2 years. I don't think I would have like if I worked anywhere else, I would have had to work for like 5 or 6 years, guesstimating. I feel like I learned so much in these 2 years that there's not a lot of other places I would have learned so much in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, no, that's real. I think the word used was life-changing, and I actually think that is the right word.
Yeah.
Because whatever that big company that you have on your resume, you get to keep that for the rest of your life, genuinely. Like, that never goes away, right? Like, you get to hold that experience and bring that with you no matter what you do in the future. And I think that startup experience is also really important. I talk about that a lot, but yes, the startup teaches you a lot about what it's like to like get your hands dirty and build stuff from 0 to 1, which is very critical. Like everyone who has worked in big tech should also do a stint in a startup, I think, because you learn a totally different world. However, most startups fail. Like this is the reality. And so when you say I worked at X startup, it's hard for people to know like how legitimate that was, and it's very difficult.
Yeah, you can just make it up.
Yeah, you could literally make it up. There's like no proof that that startup was real. So there is something like special about that, and it makes a lot of sense why you did that choice in the end. And the whole like making your parents proud thing, that is a real thing that we don't talk about as much.
Yeah, right? That's true too.
Yeah. So tell me more about like the major that you were in. Like, what was it like doing a double degree? And like, did you feel like it was hard to balance the two? Was it a good change in like coding all day to like go to a different class? Like, what was that like?
Oh, well, I mean, I already told you that I guess I have some trauma response where I forgot most of it. So good question. I don't remember what it was like. No, I'm kidding. It wasn't that bad. Okay. Like objectively speaking, I don't remember it being that bad. Mm-hmm. But since this is a podcast, where I think most of our listeners are women, I was the only woman in first year. In second year, there was another girl who switched her degrees to join me, and I was like so excited about it. But out of like, I think there were 64 people in first year, I was the only woman. I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy in the double degree, because we were all kind of like a group all the time.
Yeah. Wait, so that's intense. Like usually it's like, oh, there was only 30% women, but to be the only one.
No, I was the only one.
Oh my God.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That is wild.
It's super weird. I think times are different now. I started in 2013, so back then it was not a popular thing, and so that was weird for me. I think I remember joining a women in STEM group and learning about imposter syndrome, and then being like, oh, whoa, I have that too. I didn't realize, like, it's a thing. There's words for that. And I was really excited about that. And yeah, I think the degree itself wasn't that hard. Like I was always good at math. Computer science was hard for me. I was very confused, even though Python was our first language that we learned. And so that was actually really it should have been easy, but there were still many things that, they don't click for a long time. But I think my biggest challenge when I think back is kind of like, I was the only woman, and you kind of feel...
Sorry, I'm looking at my notes.
Oh, no worries. I don't know. I think that was challenging. It was challenging being the only one and feeling out of place. So I feel like now, when you have so much more representation, it's so much easier to see yourself doing the same thing and being successful, instead of being like, oh, I'm like the black sheep and I must be an idiot. I feel like I felt like that a lot. But in general, I think I really liked the degree. And to answer your question, it wasn't a lot of switching. Like they were... All the classes were merged. So it's basically like a buy one, get one free. Usually you would get like one bachelor's of science in computer science in 4 years, or one business administration, bachelor's of business administration in 4 years. But instead, they kind of merge all of the essential classes, and you get no electives, and you just work hard for 5 years, and then you get both. So No,
that's awesome. I mean, like, I'm sure a lot of that's going to come in handy when you're building your own company too, right?
Yeah, I feel like it was kind of a random decision, but I feel like everything I've done in my life kind of prepared me for this.
Yeah. How do you think we can get like more women in tech? I mean, I know it's not as bad as 2013, but it's still pretty bad. Like the numbers haven't been increasing as fast as you would expect for how much like awareness there is about the issue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's only an issue if it's hard for women to get into tech. I think now it's easier than ever, and it's more of just wanting it. Like I think what's actually important is getting people informed of, oh, this is something you might like, there's some interesting reasons that I learned about why there's less women in tech than before, because we used to be the main computer programmers, right? Like women were the main.
What happened with that?
Yeah, apparently what happened is part of what happened. Now, I don't know how much of this is true, so maybe we have to take some of this out. But apparently,
double check later.
Yeah, women used to be the main computer programmers, and then around when was it? Like in the 70s, like when personal PCs started coming out. Maybe that was in the 80s or 90s. I need to like look up the exact dates. But when personal computers started coming out, you know what changed everything? Marketing. They were all marketed towards like little boys. And so little boys would, get a PC and be like, oh, you get to play games and all of that. And, little girls would get marketing for Barbies and things like that. Mm-hmm. And apparently a really big reason is because the personal computer was marketed towards boys. And, as they got older, the little boys wanted to play with computers and the little girls really didn't get that marketing. Like it's all marketing that changed everything.
Wait, that's literally wild. I did not know this story, but obviously what you're exposed to when you're younger is how you build excitement about something.
Exactly.
And so like if you're going to be playing on computers as you're growing up, you're going to be like excited about potentially pursuing a career where you continue to play with computers, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, so after the personal computer came out and it was marketed more towards boys, all the little boys would grow up and become computer programmers, and there was a lot less women that would grow up and also have those same desires. So that's why I think, that dropped a lot. Like there was this steep decline where, there were, I don't know, in the 90s, I think, is when women stopped being programmers as much and like men were. And then now we're kind of like evening out a little bit more, like it's getting better and more women are interested, partially because we have these like women in tech movements and showing little girls like, hey, this is something cool that you could do if you want. Yeah. But in terms of actually doing it, I think it's easier than ever. We just need to get that passion and desire into people, because you can't like force it. There's just some women that obviously don't want to, and that's perfectly fine. Right. And like,
just like there are some dudes that don't want to do it.
Exactly. So just making it obvious that, hey, this is something cool. If you want to try it, if you don't like it, then that's fine too. And
I think like people like you are doing the work for that. Like it's truly, you guys are basically marketing the field every day to women. Like I don't know what your audience demographic is, but I imagine it's more women than it is men, because people look at you and can relate to you. Like when I look at
that would be cool, but
no way.
Actually on TikTok it's 50-50, which is really cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah, but on like YouTube, even on Instagram, it's maybe like, you know what? Let me check right now. I don't know what it is because I haven't checked in a while. On YouTube, it's so crazy. It's like 90% men.
No. Yeah. I guess because like women don't really like use YouTube as much. Is that what it is? But
I don't know if that's
and they're just
true.
More women on TikTok.
Perhaps.
I don't know.
I actually think that is true. YouTube is probably more male dominant. Like the viewers are more so male. Yeah. Instagram is more so female. I think a lot more women use Instagram. That's for sure.
That's surprising that you don't. I literally projected. I was like, oh, you probably have more women who follow you. And
really?
I mean,
no. Every tech creator has more men than women. Like I will more make women. That. But on TikTok.
I'm on TikTok.
TikTok is different. You're right. Yeah. On TikTok, it's a lot more women. I don't know why that is. I think also a lot more women are on TikTok. I don't know the demographics. I don't know, but I think so.
I think that's what it is. I think there are also more female creators as well on TikTok.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%.
So,
let's see.
Wow, that's so interesting. I think also TikTok in general has better discovery for content.
Yes.
So like maybe like
that's okay. So it is 71% men and 28% women. 71.5 and 28.4. That is not. There's a 0.1% missing. But anyway, 71 and 28.
Wow, that I didn't realize that, but that's probably because I don't create on Instagram at all. So what do I know about Instagram?
Right.
But I think potentially a hypothesis could be that like TikTok is better at discovery of content. And so if you follow like 10 women who follow also 10 women, then they're more likely to show you that maybe. Or versus on Instagram, like you're more likely to discover a creator by like looking up, like searching specifically for that content. And I feel like based on like what you were saying, where it's like more dudes are in tech, more dudes are more likely to search up like tech creators or like content.
That is possibly it.
That is a hypothesis. Obviously, I don't know at all, but wow, that's so interesting. Well, we got to change that ratio.
Yeah. I mean, that would be nice.
I'm going to get everyone in Genshi to follow you. And then maybe if we all follow you, we can change that ratio and get that to more women.
That's going to be hard. How many people are maybe?
That's true. That's not be enough. But maybe if we just like keep doing it over and over again, we'll keep
That's right.
doing that. But yeah, no, that's really interesting. What would you, if you could go back to your younger self and give her some advice, what would you tell her?
Oh, there are so many pieces of advice I wish I could give myself. I think the first one, like, it's not that related to tech, but I guess it could be related to imposter syndrome and all of that, is to work on building self-confidence. Like, I didn't really feel confident in my abilities for a very long time, and I think that would have been life-changing in my career, you know, and that's all just mindset. Like, I would tell my younger self, like, focus on your mindset. Like, once you have a good mindset, like a growth mindset, you know, not limiting beliefs that are like, oh, I suck at this, I'm just always going to suck at this. I feel like a lot of people have that mindset and, you know, I'm just not cut out for this. This is not something I can do.
Yes.
Like, no, everything is a learnable skill.
Yes.
If you look at everything as a learnable skill that you can improve on and grow, that just changes your entire life. You know, I think I would tell myself, hey, you need to have a growth mindset and train yourself to have that. You know, it's not something that you just decide to have one day. You have to build it. And that's probably the most important piece of advice I'd give myself.
I mean, that makes so much sense. Like, you're not born with confidence. You have to build confidence. It's like actually something you have to like work on building every day.
100%.
I guess, like, to be more tactical, like, what are actionable things you would tell this younger version of myself to build that confidence? It doesn't come for free, right?
No. Well, one of the things that I do is I force myself to do things that scare me. I think like that's a really great way to build confidence because you put yourself in a situation where you have to trust yourself that you're going to get through it. And that's the biggest thing towards building confidence. Like, building confidence isn't, oh, I know everything already. It's, there's things I don't know and I can learn them and I trust myself to learn them and be okay in any situation. Yeah. You know, so, I mean, even coming here, I'm going to be totally honest. I totally didn't know what this was going to be. And I was like, oh, I guess I should go do it. And I haven't been on a podcast and I guess I should go force myself to do it. And like, it's a great way to be like, oh, I trust myself to be on a podcast now. Like, this is something I can do in the future. Yeah. Or even, not yesterday, this weekend, I like volunteered to go on stage at the Tech Roast show.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. The comedy show.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, and
Dang,
on
that's
Thursday.
Very confident.
Yeah, I kind of regretted it after because I was sleep deprived, over caffeinated and like kind of anxious. And then somehow they brought up my Instagram like on screen and I got so embarrassed. And I wish I didn't, you know, like I still need to work on my confidence. Right. Because
I mean, you have so many followers and it's crazy that even you sometimes get anxious and
yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, everybody gets anxious sometimes. Like, that's just normal.
Or about your Instagram profile.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
No,
like, not just in general.
Because my strategy is shit posting. And for some reason, like, it doesn't feel scary to do it to, like, 160,000 people I don't know. That's not scary. Like, I was just be like, oh, I'm just going to shit post. But when it's an audience of, like, 1,500 people that see me in real life.
And you're looking right back at
them. And I'm looking at them, and they're, like, real-life human beings. Somehow it's way more scary.
Wow, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I've never done that before. I'd be too scared. So.
But anyway, and on Thursday, I'm starting a 10-day paragliding course where I'm literally going to be paragliding over volcanoes in Hawaii. Like, I'm actually so scared, and I don't know why I signed up for this. But it's like part of the, you know, do stuff that scares you, and that's how you build confidence.
I'm so excited for you. Please post stories so I can watch them.
Yeah, I will. Like, if I survive, if I survive, you'll see the stories.
You're going to survive for sure.
I hope so. But no, I really don't trust myself very much. So that's why I'm trying to force myself to go in situations where, you know, I can build trust with myself and know that I can do things. I got this.
Yes.
So yeah, I wish I did that more when I was young. That and learning to code earlier. Like, I wish I learned to code before starting university, you know? I'm not talking like I wish I was like a 13-year-old whiz kid hacker.
Right.
Like, that would have been nice. Yeah. But even just dabbling with it a little bit before university, working on projects, like actually building things. I didn't really actually build things until my first job, which is really bad because you don't know anything until you build things.
That's so true. And the world has ChatGPT now. Like, nobody has an excuse. Everyone has a private tutor at fingertips. Like, we didn't have that. Like, it was way harder and way harder.
I'm so jealous of this generation, man.
I know. I feel like you can do anything now. Like, there should be no excuses.
You can do anything.
You genuinely can. Yeah.
You can do anything now. So if you don't, that's on you. You know, personal responsibility for all of that.
So true. Anything else you would tell your younger self?
I would tell myself to be more aware and more selective of my time. Like, I would just, you know, hang out and like do whatever and say yes to everything. I mean, I am still of the mentality of saying yes to everything is really important. But as you get older, you realize how valuable your time is. And it's so important at a young age to like optimize that time and build good habits. And, you know, I would definitely focus more on self-improvement and ways to manage my time and be more aware of how much time I have and what I use it for. Yeah. I don't think I did a good job at that, especially not in high school. So 100%.
Yeah. I mean, I still struggle with that every day. That's just a really hard thing. But if you can master that is a phenomenal skill to have at an early age, because you can really, really accelerate your learning and what you do in your career. So
100%.
That's great advice. Where can we find you?
You mean my socials?
Yes.
Tech Unicorn, very easy to remember.
Oh, love that.
I think it's Tech Unicorn across all of my channels, but sometimes the punctuation is different. Like tech.unicorn on Instagram, tech__unicorn on Twitter because it wasn't available. And yeah, Tech Unicorn on YouTube. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Well, everyone go follow her because we need to get that ratio more equal.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.